Good evening, Chris Owens here, Accountable Manager at Cumulus Aviation. I want to go ahead and talk about a few things today. One of the things that was brought to my attention had a gentleman call about doing a pre-buy and what it takes to purchase an aircraft. And I figured while it's fresh in my mind, I'll go ahead and do a video on it. So one of the things that Cumulus Aviation does is that we help people acquisition aircraft, whether it's general aviation or corporate aviation or a fleet operator, and you trying to acquisition and help yourself understand what aircraft to buy. Now, dealing with corporate or operator aircraft, that's a different conversation. And if you'd like for me to do a video on aircraft or some ideas that can help you with that process, hey, make a comment, let us know, and I'll do a video on that. But today is going to be just some tips and information about general aviation aircraft buying or acquisition. And one of the things is the AOPA, the Aircraft Owner and Pilots Association. They have a really, really good resource on kind of like what to do and what the process is for buying aircraft, because most general aviation aviators, this might be their first aircraft. They might not know about all the rules and the regulations. So I suggest you go read that process. I also suggest you read CFR 144316, which is airworthy limitations. And also, I think it is CFR 91419. I hope I got that right. And that's the transfer of records when you go from owner and operator. I suggest you read that, you understand those two regulations, getting a basic general idea of what your requirements are from the previous owner and what it means that you need to have when you transfer that aircraft and what you need to see maintenance wise. Okay, going to those two references will help you just get a general idea of requirements are and give you some insight when you go buy aircraft. The next thing is when you go buy aircraft, you got registration, all those different things, but the most important thing to me when you buy aircraft is the aircraft records. Now, you have situations where if you're dealing with legacy aircraft, you have to understand that maybe some of the records are missing. So you got to understand how to navigate that and make sure that you account for life limited components, you verifying serial numbers, you making sure that pretty much the aircraft meet its type data certification. If the owner doesn't want to give up his records for you to review before you buy the plane, talking about you want to review those records at maybe at pre-buy inspection or anything like that, and I'm going to talk about what that is a little bit later. But that's a red flag. Turn around, walk away, find another aircraft. There might be something shady going on. If you continue to go that route with that gentleman or lady, just proceed with caution, because no one should be afraid to show their records. Now, it should be in a controlled environment. They're not going to probably let you take them home and you can review them overnight or something like that, in a situation where it might be at their maintenance facility where they get it done at or whatever. But it should be a controlled environment because aircraft records are important. So you're not going to be able to probably take the records and not be in the sight of the owner operator, and you might not be in a situation where you can make copies of the records or something like that. But you want to be in a situation with the owner of that aircraft where you can review the records thoroughly and see what's there. Anytime you're in aviation, you do not want to go off of someone's word. You always want to take what they say, take it in consideration, but validate and verify everything they say is on the up and up, and the aircraft record will do that. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, this is a very sensitive subject. The way aircraft records are is very sensitive. People get up in arms when you identify discrepancies or anything like that. You just got to stay calm, stay professional, and as long as they're not cursing you out, talking about your mother, being offensive, anything like that, just don't let that deter you. It's just a situation where an aircraft is a very personal thing, and sometimes when you're going through that process, there's a lot of sentimental value maybe with that aircraft. And also there might be a situation if there's a broker involved or anything like that. He's just trying to maximize what he's going to make off that aircraft. So there's a lot of different things that you need to pay attention to, but having access to those records before anything is signed so you can decide if you want to buy the aircraft, let alone get into a pre-buy situation. So once you get a hold of the records of the aircraft, you want to do what I call a conformity. Now, I'm going to leave you hanging and leave you a little bit of suspense about what I mean by conformity. I'm using a word that I'm comfortable with. There's a lot of different ways that people can say this word, but I'm looking at the aircraft in totality through records and visual inspections, looking for certain discrepancies, and this is not a pre-buy. This is just a review and get to the point that you want to buy the aircraft and you want to transition into the pre-buy. And by doing this conformity, I have a good idea of what that pre-buy is going to look like. I can probably get a dollar amount on that, and I can give you that information and let you decide whether you even want to continue with the communication or purchase of the aircraft before you even go to a pre-buy. All right. So a conformity is just a tool that I use to make sure as you acquisitioning or the buyer of that aircraft is comfortable going forward with dealing with a bill of sale and get ready for a situation where you're going to buy aircraft and you want to go into a pre-buy inspection. Now, let's talk about a pre-buy inspection. When you view those records and that owner operator had that plane worked on by his mechanic, his crews, and let's just say they could be great. They could be stand up. But if you read the regulations for transfer of record, and when you take ownership of that aircraft, you want to put yourself in a situation you feel comfortable that you're starting at a great point and your aircraft is airworthy and you can fly with confidence knowing that there's no weird issues, there's no real write-ups. And a lot of times, I think it's 91-213, 91-214, there's going to be things that's already deferred on the aircraft. And I always tell people when you buy aircraft, so what? That was his problem. You should not inherit anything that's deferred at the time you buy the aircraft. That should be taken into account for the purchase of the aircraft. It's not about being airworthy. It's about the condition of the aircraft once you take ownership of it. All right. So if you got items not required at, I think it's 91-213, 214 or something like that, items that you can leave off the aircraft and continue to fly, that's fine when that previous owner operator has the aircraft. But once you get it, you might feel that those things need to be addressed, which I think you should have those things addressed and fixed because you're acquisitioning the aircraft on that date of time and you want a good, clean aircraft. Now, after that, fine. Go ahead and use the minimum equipment list that's appropriate for that aircraft and continue to fly as long as it's an airworthy state. Fine, do that. But at the time that you purchase that aircraft, any of those little issues, I'm saying get taken care of. Now, you two can negotiate how that is done. We can help with the negotiation. We can help with pricing. We can figure it all out. But if I'm buying an aircraft, I want that aircraft to be clean. I do not want that aircraft to have these little discrepancies on there when you buy the aircraft because those things are just going to pile up. And then you're going to get to a situation where you might have to take care of it. It might interfere with the airworthy item. Who knows what's going to happen? So when you're dealing with buying that general aviation aircraft, you go into that pre-buy, you should have some verbiage in that pre-buy, how you handling all the discrepancies that was done during the ownership, but it's still airworthy, but there are discrepancies. You might have some trimming issue. You might have some carpet issues. You might have some panel issues. That was that previous owner feeling comfortable to do that. When you buying it and you spending your money for that, I want that stuff taken care of. I want that stuff fixed. So when I take ownership of the aircraft, I got a good, clean aircraft at the time that I purchased it, good airworthy aircraft, and then my records are clean, my records are impeccable, they're organized, they're nice, they're neat, all those different things are done. Now, when you go on a pre-buy, to me, a pre-buy is an annual. That might be subjective. People might be like, oh, you need to just do a visual inspection, this and this and that. Heck no. I want an annual. I'm doing some functional checks. I'm doing some engine runs. I'm doing a complete annual on that aircraft, or a complete phase cycle on that aircraft when I buy that plane, and not just some basic aircraft log review. You look at the last annual done. No, I'm doing a complete pre-buy. Now, the great thing about it is it shouldn't be that big of a deal, because the conformity is going to really help that pre-buy be organized and put in a format that when you do the RFQ, you'll have a good scope of work that you want done at the pre-buy, okay? But doing that pre-buy, I want an annual inspection. And like I said, that's just me. That's my personal preference. That's what I advise the purchasers, the buyers of aircraft when they're dealing with acquisition in aircraft. I've seen a situation when they decided not to do that. We still went forward. We still went on with the deal. Everything like that was done. And then when they was flying the airplane, they found out that the trim stick on the turboprop engine was changed out, and the plane engine actually had some hot section issues, okay? So if they would have did everything like I said to do, that hot section actually caused a little bit of damage, and it was like $130,000 fix, okay? But they were worried about $7,000 worth of stuff to address. That $7,000 that they were worried about spending turned out to be a six-figure issue. So I suggest anytime that you're buying the aircraft, you're the purchaser, don't be in a situation where a couple of $100, a couple of $1,000 are getting in the way of you doing your due diligence on that aircraft, because down the line, you don't know, that aircraft is going to tell a story, and it's going to tell a story at its will. And the best thing that you can do is make sure that you have a good start for your era for when that story is told. And the best way to do is to do that conformity and that pre-buy inspection. If you don't do that, you accept the responsibility, you accept that record transfer. And if you try to sell that plane later on, the value might not be there. And doing it this way helps maintain that value of the aircraft, because the value of the aircraft is the records and the technology of the aircraft, okay? Long as you maintain that aircraft is gonna hold some value, and it's gonna be a good quality plane. And at some point in time, if you wanna upgrade, you wanna go to a different aircraft, that investment that you put into that aircraft is gonna work, is gonna show up maybe at the time that you're selling the aircraft to another person. And the way the aircraft is organized, the way we do a conformity, the way the records are gonna be kept, once we do it and you're gonna get handed, it's gonna be professional, it's gonna be world class. And the motto is, here at Cumulus Aviation, if you got a 172, I'm treating it like it's Air Force One. I don't care. You get the highest level of customer service, you get the highest level of treatment for that aircraft. And when we get a hold of those records, we get those records looking straight. It's not gonna look like a junk pile. We're gonna get those records organized. And if it's a situation you want us to manage those aircraft, then everything is gonna get put into a digital maintenance database, and you'll have access to that information. And if you get worked on, whether it's by us or another vendor, you can give us the records and we'll update and make sure everything is on the up and your logbook entries are looking great and everything is just grade A. So if you have any questions about this, you want any more insight, contact us on Facebook, comment and subscribe. I've been watching some YouTube videos, so I'm getting better. And then you also can hit us up, our email address at info@cumulusaviation.com if you want any more videos. Thank you for your time, and look forward to putting out more content.